Hello and welcome. This is our weekly review program, and we are going to bring to you major events over the week as usual. And Prosperity Party second regular Congress that opened on 31st of January and which will run until February 2. Wandosan Alamayo, my colleague, and I, Gamechisa Mandira, will host you, and we would like to say thank you very much for joining us and stay with us. Hello, Anderson.
Hello, Gamechis. How are you?
I'm good. How has the week been?
It has been so fabulous.
Yeah, it has been so fabulous, really. Especially, we have got, this wonderful ceremony or wonderful, we can say, assembly, which is the second regular Congress of the Prosperity Party. And it is running now, and it will be running until February 2. And we do hope a lot will be mentioned during this assembly. And let me invite you to tell us, what it means for the party and for Ethiopia.
Yes, the second session of the Prosperity Party's Congress is in progress. For this, in this Congress, His Excellency Prime Minister Dr. Abiy Ahmed has been addressing the members with what the Prosperity Party has been coming through within the last 5 years and the next big agendas ahead. He has just been covering up all those important issues that are going to be in place in the country, in how to move the country forward in terms of social, economic and political terms as well.
You're right. Well, 1,700 party members attended it, along with high-ranking government officials, and of course invited ambassadors, foreign ambassadors and guests. And a lot has been mentioned, during the opening session, which took place on the 31st of January. We can say that it was really extraordinary in a way that we had this stage performance by young people, young boys and girls. So it just started with, showing what the country has gone through so far in terms of, its party history, which is, brief, we can say, which also the Prime Minister mentioned. We just have, a history of 50 years as far as party is concerned. And during this period, the country has been, benefiting from the parties as much as it was losing. We just paid a lot in our party history so far. And especially the stage performance showed what really happened during the reign of the emperor, and then the reign of the Derg and EPRDF, and it just concluded showing what's going on just right now. And the performance showed it in a way that is so beautiful and that is concise, I can say. So the party, the Prosperity Party, is expected, and of course, showing to draw lessons from the history of Ethiopian politics, or this party politics in the country. Well, this is, just to show what really happened, just during the opening session on the 31st of January. And that was really attended by, of course, high-ranking government officials and members of the Prosperity Party, including just ministers. So we can see that the government has given, due attention to what has gone so far. And Wandosan, can you tell us, what the Prosperity Party has achieved in the last reform years?
Yes, the Congress has been embarked on with the opening session on the artistic performance, and His Excellency has just mentioned it as one of the most important artistic element that would show even the future plans for the country, and inclusive of everything that is going to happen in the next in the country as well. So it's an artistic element that shows a number of things in it. So the session, in the opening ceremony, the speech has been conducted with the Prime Minister. A number of elements has been raised, like for instance, the party believes in transcendent ideas. The fact that ideas are one of the most important elements to move the country forward, especially. So without eternal ideas, without ideas that could surpass, times, it's quite impossible to move the country forward. This is what the Prime Minister has been accentuating on, especially.
You're right, Wondos, and of course the Prime Minister mentioned that Ethiopia's party history is brief, and it is only just, they say 60 years, but we know that especially just the emergence of the Derg regime, it has been some 50 years, and then before that there were some party-like activities in the country as well. Well, one thing that the Prime Minister mentioned is that during this assembly is that of course the fact that the governments or the previous regimes focused on establishing a single party, but irrespective of that, the Prosperity Party believes and appreciates having multiple parties in the country, which is allowing just democracy to be at play. And the fact that the previous regimes in Ethiopia, they have been kind of resistant to having this multiple parties in the country, and that they take very severe measures on anyone they consider to be a threat in terms of political enmity. So this has, of course, affected the country's political atmosphere in general. But in the case of Prosperity Party invites parties, multiple parties in the country to play their roles, especially as far as they come up with ideas. They could be different, but still, if they can substantiate their significance for the country's development, if they benefit just the people of Ethiopia, still Prosperity Party opens its arm widely and invites them to come over. And we had a representative from these opposition parties, and this is something that we need to appreciate.
Yes, the Prime Minister mentioned a number of things with regard to how to move the country forward in terms of social and economic advancement. In the past, the past political rhetoric of the country has been full of impediments, and so people, it has not been inclusive of the multi-political party, multi-pluralism, right? So nowadays plurality is now in place, inclusive of all the parties, the opposition parties, the incumbent party, and all the other parties who transcendent view to move the country forward, surely invited into the platform to lead the country. So that is what especially the Prime Minister has been mentioning.
Wonderson, one thing again that the Prime Minister mentioned is that synergy of ideas, synergy of even competing ideas, competing ideologies. So we need to create this synergy. We cannot have just one exclusive route or thought in terms of politics. When we talk about politics, as far as it serves us, it gives us what we need and what we want, then it must be entertained. And the Prime Minister, of course, said that the Prosperity Party, in general, embraces variety of ideas, and it wouldn't assert that the Prosperity Party is the only party that can sustain in the country, and others, as far as just they come up with ideas that are worthy, that as serving the people, then they just will be welcomed happily. And the other thing is that, of course, democratic procedures should be followed when we talk about implementing policies, and as far as we don't have democracy, then we cannot be Prosperity Party cannot be successful. So there must be a stage where genuine democracy is practiced, so that those people or parties can come over and then extend their ideas, which can be used both for the party and for the nation.
Yes, with regard to democracy, a number of things have been mentioned by the Prime Minister, especially entertaining all ideas without the dominance of only one idea in the country. Yeah. And especially the prevailing the rule of law in the country, human rights laws, the preservation of human rights laws, and with regard to embracing all the opposition parties together in order to bring the country ahead with social and economic advancement, has been more prominently taking the place in the discussion, I think.
Yeah, well, and the other thing that aligns with what you said now, which is being successful in our say political ideologies or ideas, or sustaining democracy in the country, is that not copying ideologies from abroad, from other countries. If we take the socialist ideology that was, of course, brought in from abroad, and the previous regime wanted it implemented in the country, and of course we can say the government of the then government or the then leadership would have good heart in realizing the benefits of socialism, but because they were imported, we can say they just didn't serve the purpose as sought. And so these political ideologies should emerge from our context, our indigenous context, say culture, language, and of course this has to do with respecting and appreciating our culture, and if we need to kind of bring in ideologies from elsewhere, there is a need for the government and for the party just to make some kind of adoption and adaptation as well. So we still have beautiful cultural elements, values that we have not tapped yet, that have not been nurtured in a way that suit our needs and wants. So democracy, when we talk about democracy, the Prime Minister says these situations, existing contexts of the people of Ethiopia should be put under consideration.
Sure, especially the domestic homegrown ideologies has been more accentuated by the Prime Minister. Yeah. The issues of importing ideas into the structure of the country is no more viable, no more outworking, functioning. Yeah. So the context of domestic ideas, homegrown domestic ideas should be rather inculcated for the country to move forward, right? So there are Ethiopia has its own context. We wouldn't just resemble any other country. We have our own color. We have our own, sense of politics.
Yes.
We have our own sense of economics. We have our own sense of social, social paradigm, right? So, in that sense, we have our own domestic way of doing things, right? So the domestic ideas should be more given prominence, instead of whatever transcendent they are from outside wouldn't be functional unless it is unless it comes out of the internal facet, right? So the internal is much more important than the external one. So domestic homegrown ideas are far more important.
They assure democracy or democratic way of dealing with our politics, which is a very important thing. The other thing, well, we need to mention is that this assembly is taking place with the motto word to culture. Okay, so we just come up with ideas, democratic ideas, and these ideas will be implemented properly in a way that is democratic and that is concise, that is proper. And when this happens, we will be able to turn ideas into action, into reality. So the idea that we have of our nation, of our people, will be passing through democratic procedures that allow us have the kind of fruit we seek, the kind of reality we want to see around us. So this has been asserted by the Prime Minister, who said representation of nations and nationalities, genuine representation of nations and nationalities is a very important thing that we need to ensure in this democratic path. And of course, inclusive democratic procedures or inclusive democracy should be implemented to realize, of course, this word to culture idea.
Yes, the theme word to culture is so much pregnant with a number of ideas in it, a number of conceptual frameworks in it, right? So, sometimes parties probably come up with verbal or promises that wouldn't be put into effect, right? So, but the Prosperity Party is coming up with ideas that would likely be put into practice, right? With the true color of the country, with the actual things that could probably be put in place, right? So not just with the mere hopes that would just only nurture your mind, right? So, but with the ideas that would just practically put in place.
One example that I remember from the remark the Prime Minister made was the fact that we need intrinsic motivation to allow this idea come to reality. He just gave an example. For instance, hygiene is one value that we work towards. Look at Addis Ababa these days. Places like Piazza, Aratkilo, or other places, other spots of Addis Ababa where the corridor development project has been implemented, you have clean area. Okay, so you can't behave in the way you used to. For instance, people throw tissue paper. For instance, drivers threw away tissue paper on the street, and if there were a police officer or a traffic police, that driver wouldn't do that. Okay, but the motivation here is of course extrinsic, external. But the Prime Minister insisted that we need to create a community that would hate to throw tissue paper while they're driving on the street. Okay, so making everyone responsible for what they do. People would behave properly in a way just that lead us the kind of prosperity we want to have in our country. So a kind of behavioral change is demanded by the remark of the Prime Minister, and this is, well, to say that we need to appreciate these values that lead us to prosperity, that are procedurally democratic, and for this nobody should tell you what to do. You need to know them already, and then you need to behave accordingly, so that everything that you do will lead you to a prosperous nation. And that starts, of course, from idea, because everything around us, emanates from the idea that we have of people, of things, of places, everything around us. So democracy, inclusiveness, and this intrinsic motivation were emphasized in the remarks made by the Prime Minister.
Yes, the Prime Minister, he just came up with a very simple but far-reaching concept. The fact that we shouldn't litter our pavements out without, just thoughtlessly, right? So,
Yes.
If we are making a culture of cleaning our environment, the next generation would also take it. And so he just came up with a very simple idea that would everybody understands, but very profound, and that would take us to the future as well.
Yeah, absolutely, Wandosen. So shall we invite our viewers what the Prime Minister remarked?
Sure.
party.
በኢትዮጵያ የፓርቲ ፖለቲካ ታሪክ በጣም አጭር ነው።
In Ethiopia, the history of party politics is very short. It has a lifespan closer to 60 years. In the last 60 years, all the challenges that we have not been able to transit emanates from the wrong belief that a party could bring about reform and realize the reform as well. Creating a reform without the realization of skilled reformers in a party won't sustain the party for long. Creating a reform is not all about speaking the challenges about the existing system. Rather, it calls for emanating solutions. There are so many backward procedures and practices that it wants to deconstruct. However, it doesn't only deconstruct, it rather wants to develop it in an excelled manner. It's not deconstructing Piazza, rather constructing it in an excelled manner of which Prosperity Party is known for.
ስላለው ውድቀት አብዝቶ መናገር ብቻ ሳይሆን መፍትሄም ማፍለቅ ይጠይቃል።
The Prime Minister added that the core of a party's idea, of which Prosperity has been founded on,
የአንድ ፓርቲ አስኳሉ ሐሳብ ነው።
The core of a party is idea. A party without a developed idea, though it is able to demolish everything and create anything, it will have trouble to realize and lead the reform it has brought. Prosperity Party in the history of Ethiopian politics is the first to dwell on an indigenous idea. The very disappointing fact is that when a Prosperity Party comes with synergy, which it has thought it to be, the perfect medicine for Ethiopian politics is still for the last 6 years we haven't seen a single person, group and party with alternative ideas despite accusing the party. For we know the challenges that we have faced through copied ideologies for the past years. I would like to express the party's readiness to learn from competing parties if they come with alternative ideas based on Ethiopian ideology.
በቀል ሐሳብ ቢያቀርቡ ብልጽግና ለመማር ዝግጁ መሆኑን ከወዲሁ ለመግለጽ እወዳለሁ።
the Prime Minister underscored that the Congress is expected to be inclusive and democratic by its very nature.
ከዚህ ጉባኤ የሚጠበቀው አንድ ቁልፍ ነገር በጉባኤው ሂደትም በውጤትም ዴሞክራሲያዊ አሳታፊ መሆኑን እርግጠኛ መሆን ያስፈልጋል።
The key expected outcome of this Congress is that we have to assure that it is inclusive and democratic in its procedure and conclusion. As you all know, I could speak wholeheartedly in the history of Ethiopian politics reform. It is a Prosperity Party forum only which is the first of its kind to be graced with the representation of the nations and nationalities. This inclusivity and participation should be developed with democratic flow of ideas and equipped with enabling environment.
Well, Wondrosen, we're still in this assembly, and I think it is worth mentioning the works or the achievements made by the Prosperity Party, especially in the last reform years. A lot has been accomplished in the last 3-4 years, 5 years. And of course, we cannot have enough time to describe everything, but shall we mention some of them?
Yes, some of the monumental activities that has been achieved by the Prosperity Party, by the incumbent government of Ethiopia are a lot, like the corridor development projects that are crossing over from the capital to all corners of Ethiopia.
Yes.
The corridor development project is not just simply the improvement of infrastructure. Rather, it comes up with improving and upgrading the lives and social conditions of the people.
Absolutely, Wenderson. If we take, places, take, riversides, these places, have been, sorry to say it, dirty, we can say. And people dump, dirt there, and you find, just they count against us in terms of, spoiling our health. Okay, so there have been health issues for the community in general, and people wouldn't be, responsible enough to clean them and to make use of them properly. So the city administration of Addis Ababa, as part of, this corridor development project, initiated, of course, cleaning, just these spots of the city, the riversides, and then not only, changing them for the better, but making them, a source of joy, a source of happiness. Well, these projects are not over yet, they're not complete yet, but we still can see that these riversides have now become so clean, and projects are underway that will turn them into heaven, we can say. And the implications of, such projects is so huge. For instance, tourism is, one important aspect that we need to mention. Of course, the tourism industry has been neglected for quite some time, but now the Prosperity Party gives it attention. And these projects, riverside projects, will attract, obviously, tourists, not only from abroad, but also local tourists. People can come from different parts of Ethiopia to see what Addis Ababa looks like, and as a result, they will be happy, they will be excited. They'll also have, clean environment, and so the places, that once used to be bad will turn to be good, to be best, and they will contribute, their share, say, for fighting climate change, because around those places you have, plants, clean water, and anything, just that takes place around the riversides will be one contributing factors for alleviating, climate change.
Yes, the corridor project, which is currently in its second phase, now covering a number of corners in Addis Ababa as well as in different parts of the country, it's coming up with a number of achievements to the benefit of the society, right?
Yes.
So, coming up with the social inclusivity and the economic inclusivity as well. So business and social opportunities are all impressed into it.
They
Not
are.
just, right? So, and so still a number of parts of the society are being beneficiaries out of this corridor development project, and so it's not just ending up here. Rather, it would also, as the Prime Minister mentioned it will coming up with a new paradigm. It will coming up to then in the next future. It is coming up to, with the new paradigm, with the new ideas. So as he mentioned, you can't cross the same river at the same time.
Yeah.
Yes, as he
Yes.
has just mentioned.
Yes.
It's so very pictures kind of.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
the same form of development wouldn't come right at the same in the same fashion. So a new form, the current development which has been embarked on by the government will be moving forward with the same fashion, in a different, more beautiful way of doing things.
Yeah, one piles on the other. Okay, so corridor development has brought Addis Ababa to this level, and fortunately it doesn't end there. The very good thing is that good practices are replicated elsewhere in the country. So we have many other cities in the country that are copying these good practices from Addis Ababa. And of course, as the Prime Minister remarked, you cannot step on the same river that spot just that you step on.
Sure.
While you cross the road.
Exactly.
That water is just no more there. So you come up with something new every time you try
Yes.
to cross the river, which is of course will always be in a different situation. And the Prime Minister said that should be progressive. Okay, and we step onto a new chapter every now and then. Okay, and that has to be maintained. And he mentioned of course doing this work, this great work for next generation. We might sacrifice a lot, but he said that we need to have our next generation who are praising us for the good work we will do for them, or we are doing for them. And one thing he mentioned is that of course in the past much has not been done, and the current generation in some way is badly affected by that, and this has to stop here. Okay, so next time we need to come up with something better. Okay, we need to go to a new level, and this, he said, can happen, okay, or can come to reality when we are democratic, when we appreciate different ideas, when we follow democratic procedures in everything that we do, when we invite different ideas to be entertained on the table.
Sure, the good work has already been started. So so what's remaining is to take up and to move it forward again, and with much more energy and with much more quality, right?
Exactly.
So with regard to those things, the Prime Minister has also mentioned resolving conflicts and problems, challenges through dialogue, and the only means to sustain the country forward.
Exactly. Well, during the stage performance, what was observed is that we still can be in challenges, and those sources of challenges could be just the people who are with you. And sometimes there are misunderstandings. Sometimes people don't want to appreciate what they see with naked eyes. So if you take a look at what happens in our country, these development projects, these mega projects, these human-oriented projects, of course, led by the Prosperity Party and the Ethiopian government, are not appreciated by all equally. Some give them wrong meanings, and they still say bad things. Especially we have seen just this. There is this train that takes people, the new train, and the passengers some of them just create some chaos, saying that they want to get off and then go back to the old train. So this is to show that people might want just to be in the reality they used to be, and they don't want to accept just the new reality, which is important and which is of course showing good results or the fruits of the country's various endeavors. So the Prosperity Party is facing these challenges, some adversaries. So what is needed here is that of course just to leave them behind and then to look forward and then not to look back.
yes, actually, it is easier said than done. A number of people could probably be coming up with the criticisms and, envisioning certain, negative things. But being surrounded by all these challenges, the country is moving forward in advancement and in a number of developments being undertaken in the country. So it's not just such a simple thing to put things in place to make it a reality, right? So a number of challenges are there. Probably be the impediments could probably be higher than what we are now, but we can break through. Making it a breakthrough, we can achieve and we move our country forward in advancement and in development as well.
Yeah, Wonderson, the other thing that has been mentioned repeatedly was that, of course, the mega projects in the country, well, that have to do with the Prosperity Party's diplomatic works that were really dealt with successfully. For instance, if we take the Renaissance Dam, the Great Renaissance Dam, the GERD, we know neighboring countries such as Egypt and Sudan, have attempted, to put impediments to avoid, the construction of the GERD. But because of, the diplomatic work that have been the diplomatic works that have been done by the Prosperity Party, we have come to a point where we're nearing, just the completion of the dam. And the road or the path of asserting this success has not been, easy. The road has not been smooth. So there were, for instance, financial constraints to complete the dam. And Ethiopians have converged, their resources, their financial resources, irrespective of, their backgrounds, to put their share for the construction of the dam, which allowed to reach, just the dam, come to this point. And the other thing that we need to mention is the diplomatic endeavors, especially, the international diplomacy that have been undertaken by the Prosperity Party in the last years has been, excellent. And that's why the country these days can claim, for having access to the sea. And we had, conflicts with neighboring Somalia. And that could have, just resulted in, undesirable outcomes, such as, having direct conflict with Somalia. But the diplomatic works that have been put in place by the Prosperity Party have been so successful that things are now better in relation with what we do, what the government is doing with Somalia. So these are, worth mentioning. We can say this economic ties, diplomatic ties with the nearby Arab countries has been, improved by the diplomatic works of the Ethiopian government, and particularly by the Prosperity Party.
Especially the mega projects that are in place. Just to mention, the construction of the Renaissance Dam has been through a number of challenges, and from the neighboring countries like Egypt, Somalia, and the Sudan. Challenges have been coming from all these areas, and the government has been successfully trying to mediate the situation by diplomatic means, right? So as
Yes.
Diplomacy is a way out for moving the country forward, and issues with regard to the Horn of Africa, especially access to the sea, has also been one of the overriding ideas, policies that has been trying to realize in the country. So the government's policy to have access to the sea in order to advance the country's economy is one of the most important things, right? Especially in order to, in terms of stabilizing peace in Somalia with the other pertaining countries, with Egypt and the Sudan, is quite important, and the government is taking it with a good manner of diplomacy and so forth.
Yeah. One thing that we need to mention is regarding the success of the Prosperity Party is enhancing, this homegrown economic reforms. Yeah, especially alleviating poverty and alleviating cost of living has been, agenda of the government of Ethiopia, particularly that of the Prosperity Party, and measures have been taken so far, and that we can say good results have come out. For instance, import substitution procedures or measures are worth mentioning here. Well, the country, would spend a lot of foreign currency for importing, items produced abroad, but because of, the economic reform, especially that focused on, enhancing homegrown economy, we could substitute, imports a lot, and that saved, billions of dollars. And this is, something that we need to appreciate. And alleviation of poverty, or giving, opportunities for people to have new jobs, more jobs, has also been, just part of measures taken by, just the Prosperity Party.
Exactly. The homegrown economic reforms that is embarked on by the government is so much spectacular.
Yeah.
Especially to move the country forward in the economy, and to tackle inflation in the country. Inflation is a global scenario, not just only referring to Ethiopia. So in order to tackle the economic reforms in the country, the homegrown policies are coming up.
Wandosen, I think time limits us here. We stop right here because of time. Thank you, Wandosen.
Thank you.
Viewers, thank you very much for watching our program, and today's program ends right here. Next time we'll come up with other issues. Until then, goodbye.